Hey guys, hello, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Steven. It is day 3 of the longest 4-day trip in creation. It's an endless 4-day trip, mostly because I really haven't slept well this entire trip, and it has caught up to me. I am deeply fatigued right now, sincerely tired. Um, Deeply. I feel sort of intoxicated is how tired I am. But I was watching a video that I filmed yesterday, I think it was just yesterday, which was the Flight Attendant tag. It is a Flight Attendant tag that was created by Primrose Paris not long ago, and she tagged a bunch of flight attendants, and one of those flight attendants tagged me, and that was Gally Alley. So while I was in Indianapolis, I filmed my answers to the top 10 most popular questions posed to flight attendants. There was a bonus question at the end, an 11th question, which is asked which flight attendants, beauty vloggers, lifestyle vloggers would you like to do an in-person collab with? And I answered that question, but I was rambling so badly, and when I say I'm rambling, you people who have seen my videos, you know it must have been bad. So I cut that part of the video out, and I threw in a real quick room tour of my hotel room, which was fantastic. But I realized I never tagged anybody, and so I figured I would amend that tonight, and then I would tell you a little bit about this trip and why it has been so challenging. But the person who I'm going to tag probably won't be surprised. Tracy. Hi, Tracy. Tracy is the chocolate stew. Now, I'm going to give you homework. If you subscribe to my channel and you like the content that I have, I would suggest that you go visit Tracy at the chocolate stew. She has, I think, a similar style in chatting with you one-on-one. I always feel like I'm talking with a friend when I listen to Tracy talk. She's just utterly charming, and she does a lot of traveling. She does a lot of great travel videos. She talks a lot about food, and if you really want to see what a real life flight attendant looks like, acts like, how they talk, Tracy is, I think, an iconic flight attendant. She's not out there trying to build this Instagram fantasy of how glamorous being a flight attendant is. Her channel really does show the real life of a commuting flight attendant, and I respect her and her channel endlessly. So go check out the chocolate stew. And Tracy, she had taken a few months off from filming. There was a bit of a hiatus, and it was a very dark time for some of her subscribers, including myself. I missed my dose of Tracy, but she's back to filming videos, and she's posting some of her travel videos while she was away as well. So Tracy, you have been tagged. You can watch the video of mine from yesterday, which I'm sorry is very long. I should write the questions out. Or if you want to see a shorter version of the original poster of this tag, go check out Primrose Paris, who is also I'm a new subscriber of hers. Lovely channel, she's great too. But Primrose Paris posed these 10 questions that are pretty darn popular. We as flight attendant vloggers have answered most of these questions at some point in our vlogs, but this combination was pretty fun to film, and I think Tracy will enjoy it. So there you go, Tracy. You took a hiatus, and now we're putting you back to work. All right, so I tagged Tracy, and that 10th question asked, of any beauty vlogger, lifestyle vlogger, and there are 2 other YouTube channels I would love to do an in-person collab with. I think the chocolate stew, Tracy, would be so much fun to do a collab with. I don't know what we would do. I would love to go traveling with her sometime. That's a little fantasy. A cruise with Tracy and her husband, or just me and Tracy. I hope that doesn't sound creepy, Tracy. We haven't actually met in person. But there is a channel called The Lucky Ferals, which is, I don't know the woman's name. I've never seen her on camera. but she narrates, or she talks about her experience with these feral stray cats that have become part of her life, like my cats have become part of my life. But she films her cats like for hours, and I watch every minute of it. I love these cats. They're great cats. And the way she talks about them and how she interacts with them is really a real pleasure to watch. If you love cats, check out the Lucky Ferals. She's got a pretty darn big subscriber count. She's at like 15,000 subscribers or something. I love the channel. And my favorite YouTuber, and I think I put her on my favorite list before, is a channel called Emmy Made in Japan. Emmy Made in Japan. She started her channel probably 4 or 5 years ago, making little candy kits, like candy sushi out of little like Japanese candy kits. And her channel has grown and morphed into a really sophisticated channel where she talks about and she explores foods from times of scarcity and hard times, where, for example, there's a bread made with flour that's been bulked up by fiber from pine trees. Really interesting. Or mud cookies from a part of Africa, I think. Hot water pie from the Depression era. But she also explores exotic fruits you've never seen before. And she just does a whole bunch of food videos that are just endlessly bingeable. Is bingeable a word? I can binge her videos. I do. I think I've seen everything she's filmed for the past couple of years. But those are my 3 vloggers that I would love to do an in-person collab with. But I've officially tagged Tracy the Chocolate Stew. So why was this trip so frustrating and exhausting? The first leg of this trip was, the first day was a red-eye to Indianapolis from Las Vegas. Totally nothing happened, super easy, everyone was sleeping. And I think that just the people were very nice. The day 2 was that day I filmed that flight attendant tag video, so no problems. Today, I'm not sure if it was compounded by the fact that I'm so tired because I slept about 2 hours last night. I tried every trick I have to sleep and it failed every single time. I slept for exactly 2 hours. So I'm sure being tired compounded today's frustrations, but it just seemed like everything was a problem. Nothing worked. From today, the first leg of the trip, we get on the plane and it turns out that someone had gotten ill. They threw up right in the smack dab middle of the aisle back in like row 26 or something. And whoever tried to sort of take care of it through the biohazard kit. We have a biohazard kit with like a powder that you sprinkle all over someone's sick. Different bags, and there's little scoopers to help you scoop up the stuff. And I've used them, it's not pretty. But whoever did this biohazard thing, they sprinkled a whole bunch of the powder, but they didn't bother scraping any of it up. So when we got the plane, there was this sort of flattened smush of just vileness on the floor, and the cleaners didn't seem to have the tools required to clean it up, which seems a little strange to me. They clean aircraft, but they did not have anything to actually do clean this with other than paper towels and spray bottles. It was very frustrating, and they almost actively refused to take care of it. So it was a little frustrating. We had someone, maybe potentially the same person, got sick in the sink in one of our lavatories, which is absolutely disgusting. And maintenance came because it was clogged. And maintenance told us to halt boarding, to postpone boarding. Maintenance told us this. So we told our guest service agent, our gate agent, who in turn called ops. Now, ops started yelling at them and then telling us that the flight attendants were taking the delay because of this pause in boarding, and I'm telling them I'm not taking a delay because I think I get points if I did. And it's not my fault that maintenance tells us that we have to stop boarding. So blah, blah, blah. Ops and the gate agent were pressuring us to board when it was wildly inappropriate to board. The aircraft was not prepared to receive guests. That was very frustrating. Then we flew to Orlando from Indianapolis, and then we had to sit for 2.5 hours, which is all the more exhausting. You're just sitting there, but that's just fatiguing in itself. And then we flew from, where did we fly from? Orlando to Detroit, and then Detroit to Minneapolis. Now, the Detroit leg was the most difficult for me today. I was pushed to the edge, really, and it wasn't our guests. Our guests were behaving perfectly. They were wonderful. They all behaved perfectly. But I can't say my airline failed one of our guests, a family on our aircraft today, but I was very disappointed with the outcome. I don't want to paint too much of a picture in terms of what it was, because it just wouldn't really reflect well on my company. And I do want to be positive about who I work for, because my company is just doing everything they can to be the best we can be. We are working against a lot of karma, of course, a lot of history. But today, the person who is, we call a CRO, which is a complaint resolution officer, had the opportunity to do the right thing, and they chose not to. And then they compounded it by saying something wildly inappropriate to our guests. And yeah, I brought it up to our captain. I brought it up to everyone who was appropriate that I should bring it up to. And when he was leaving without resolution, or what he thought was a resolution, I asked him for some of his information, not in a threatening manner, because it's like, you know, when you go to a restaurant, you're like, I want to talk to the manager. I didn't do that. But I am going to be writing a report, because this is something, what we call an irregularity report. It was terribly irregular. It was not good. It was embarrassing is what it was. I just felt bad for our guest, who was behaving completely appropriate. I wish I could tell you more about the scenario, but it would just not be good. So I asked him, you know, can I have some of your information? I'm just going to be writing a basic report. It's nothing personal. This is just what happened. And he got very defensive, like all sorts of defensive. And he is demanding my information, and then some of my coworkers' information, because he did not feel that they were participating, and they did everything they were supposed to do. 100% across the board did everything they were supposed to do correctly, above and beyond, really. And he was very blustery, and in a threatening manner said, well, if you're going to write a report, I'm going to write a report. And it was just, I'm like, dude, go for it, because everything you're going to write is going to be wrong and inappropriate. So you go for it. It just got me really riled up, and so it weighed on me greatly, and it still is, if you can't tell. So that was pretty awful. And this last leg to Minneapolis, not a surprise, hardly a problem, because people from Minneapolis are just lovely. I don't know what it is. Minnesota nice is a real thing. We had one poor girl who got sick at a bad time, and one woman who I wish she had told me she was afraid of flying as much as she was before we took off, because I would have tried my best to give her some support. But the poor thing was just crying and crying and crying. She was so afraid. But this trip has just been endless. Did I mention that we had a 2.5 hour sit in Orlando? I'm not sure if I did. Really a long day. It was probably close to a 12-hour duty day. I'm just wiped out. And tomorrow, let me look at tomorrow. Let me pause this so I can find my schedule today. All right, I found my schedule for tomorrow. Tomorrow we fly from here in Minneapolis to Las Vegas, which shouldn't be a problem because Minnesota nice, right? Then we fly to Oakland and then back to Las Vegas. The only silver lining is that I'm due to be back in Las Vegas by just before 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so I can rush home and cuddle with my cats. Recover from this just horrid trip. I have probably had worse things, like that medical we had last week. That was much worse, but it was just a lot of little things that kept adding up. And then today, the whole experience so far has been crowned by this failure to really deliver for one of our guests that was terribly important to me, and we failed. And so tomorrow is supposed to be a fairly long day. It's blocked at 6.5 hours, and it looks like the duty day is just under 10 hours, so it's not going to be too bad, thank God. And then the last thing I'll talk about on today's video, and so it's not like a 30-minute long video, is my schedule for November. November, I was not sure what to expect. Let me find that page here on my computer. I was not sure what to expect in terms of bidding and what my award would be. And so when I went through the bid package, I literally bid for 80 lines. Now, many of them were lines I had no hopes in getting because they're turn lines or trips with lines with 2-day trips I was just never going to get because those go to much more senior people. So I bid for 80 lines just in case. Pretty typical for me. If I bid less than 60 lines, I'm worried because I want to make sure I get a line that I like. I got my first choice. And of course, I bid 80 lines. I got my first choice. So let's talk a little bit about my schedule next month. I am super excited. One trip gives me a little bit of anxiety only because I'm away from base for so long, and I really don't like being away from my cats very long. So I'm going to have to really, really make sure the cats are taken care of completely before this trip starts. But my first trip is, they're all 4-day trips. I have 4 4-day trips. I will be blocking about 73 hours for the month, which is not a lot, but I really like the trips. So the first trip, it's a 4-day trip, and I have a 22-hour Boston layover. So I get to go see some friends, go shopping at Primark, one of my favorite places in the world, and I want to go to my central service for the program I practice for recovery, so I can get an official 17-year medallion that is like the ones that I got when I was getting sober years ago, because the ones here in Las Vegas are very different. They're smaller, they're lighter. I don't like them as much. I want my big heavy coin from Boston. And then I also have a 21-hour layover in Fort Lauderdale. Very exciting, and my plan is, if the weather is cooperating, I want to go to the beach and check that out. Or maybe I'll go into Wilton Manors, which is sort of a little gay neighborhood, but probably go to the beach because I have seen plenty of gay neighborhoods. The next trip, I have a 22-hour layover in Baltimore, and my goal is to go to another Smithsonian museum. I want to go to the Museum of African American History, I think it is. I would like to go to that museum, and there is another one, the National Archives, or I would like to go to the National Art Museum, I forgot. There's a couple of museums I'd like to go to, so that will be great. Same trip, I have another Boston layover. It's 24 hours this time, and that's very exciting. The week after that, I have another 4-day trip, and this is the one that's fairly long, where I'm away from base for 82 hours. And that just seems to me, for me, it's a long time. The trips prior to that, before that, are 63 hours, 69 hours. This 82-hour trip gives me a 17-hour layover in Seattle. We have a new hotel in Seattle, which is really close to the airport, making it a lot easier to get into the city. Our old hotel was in, like, it was a half-hour drive, and it just took a lot of effort to get into Seattle from there. So I'm looking forward to it. Then I've got a 16-hour long Portland layover, and it looks like at a time that I might actually go into Portland if the weather is nice. And then the next day I've got a 21-hour layover in Seattle. So for sure I'll be going into Seattle and exploring. I have not been to Seattle for 2.5 years. It was actually one of my first layovers. I bought the cutest bathing suit ever in Seattle. I have yet to wear it, actually, because I've gained weight. All right, and the last trip of the month. This is one that I'm a little torn up about. Not too badly, but it's another long layover in Boston. It's a 25-hour layover in Boston, and that means that trip starts with a red eye on Wednesday, the 27th, which means Thursday, which is Thanksgiving, I'm going to be in Boston for 25 hours. Now, the part that I said I'm kind of torn up about is what if I could rent a car, if I could find a car to rent on Thanksgiving. I don't know if that's possible. I would think about driving down to Rhode Island and having Thanksgiving dinner with my father's family. It would be the first time I've had Thanksgiving dinner with them since 2014, I think, and I miss them, and it would be really nice to see them. So that would be neat. And if I can't get down there, I would just go into Boston and find somewhere interesting to go. I have quite a few friends still in Boston, but it would be kind of a surprise to them that I was going. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going to spend Thanksgiving in Boston, potentially by myself. So we'll see what happens. I'll film a video, let you know what happened. And then the next day I've got a super short Baltimore layover. But so that's my trip for my schedule for November. I'm super excited. I got my first choice. I wanted to go and see Boston quite a bit before it got too chilly. November is actually quite nice in Boston. It doesn't get really cold until January. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I'll get another chance to go into one of the museums at the Smithsonian in DC, and I'll also get a chance to really explore Seattle, which would be really exciting. So, yay, I'm very excited. My first choice. I think that's wild. All right, so what else? I think that's about it. There's nothing else to say right now. I'm going to get in bed in about an hour or so. I'm waiting. Yeah, it's almost done. I'm using my Hot Logic Mini to heat up my go-to meal. This is, I think I've shown this to you guys before. It's a store-bought, obviously, macaroni and cheese that is absolutely delicious. It's like homemade. It's gorgeous. And so I'll be eating a tremendous amount of macaroni and cheese and then going to bed. And here I complain about getting fat and gaining weight. Whatever. That's it. So thank you guys for watching. Tracy, if you're still watching, tag, you're it. And if you, again, if you enjoy my videos at all, you enjoy my content, I have to tell you, I think you would really, really, really like Tracy's videos. So go check out the Chocolate Stew. Subscribe to my channel, of course, and hit subscribe to her channel as well. If you hit that little bell icon, you'll get notifications when we post new content. And leave a comment below if you'd like, and I will talk to you guys later. Okay, fly safe. Bye.